A couple of years ago, coming out of the shutdown from COVID, I kind of had a chance to really overhaul and rethink my live gigging kit and did a just full revamp of everything. In the past couple of years, I've done a lot of gigs with that kit. And some things have changed, and I've come to some different realizations about exactly what I want out of it. So, in a big pile of boxes behind me is my brand new gigging kit for 2024. Here are some things that changed. First of all, I live in an old city that was never designed for cars and certainly never designed for gigging drummers. A lot of times, coming home from the gig in the middle of the night, trying to find parking anywhere I can find it, blocks from my apartment, I might have to carry my bass drum home on a bag on my back for 5 blocks because I happen to find one 5 blocks away, and there's no point driving around because there's not going to be another. I want as lightweight as humanly possible. That's a big change. The second big thing is WTS drums. I have been using this kit for several months. A good friend of mine loaned them to me on an extended loan, and I've really gotten into them. Number three is just the overall weight of all the hardware. I mean, I'll do a gig where it's an outdoor wedding or some private event across a muddy field, and trying to haul my hardware case, through the mud and grass and not get it all over my tux or whatever, that's a drag. So I'm experimenting with some new hardware that I think might be really useful here. Also, I've been very fortunate to work with Randy Ross at Sabian for a couple of prototypes for some cymbal sounds that I've just been hearing. And Randy gave me a couple cymbals that really kind of shook up my cymbal bag and pointed me in a new direction. And finally, I've been a big fan of INDe Drums, the independent drum lab out of Kalamazoo, Michigan. Josh Allen really just makes amazing hardware. I have a couple of the snare drums, Kalamazoo Bronze, which I absolutely love. I use his strainers on all sorts of stuff. So I wanted to talk to Josh about possibly doing a collaboration with WTS Drums to, get the ultimate best of all possible worlds kind of drum set. All right, let me show you what I got. This past November, I was in Indianapolis for the PASIC convention, which I highly recommend if you haven't been before. It's just the greatest drummers on the planet, all in one place for days on end. And I was really excited to see that both INDe Drums and WTS were going to be there. I was also excited to see they were right next to each other in the exhibition hall. It turned out that they had already had the idea of doing a collaboration as well, so it wasn't really a very hard sell. And with that, I would like to present the kit that they built for me. They're finished both inside and out with their famous INDe Blue, which for a colorblind drummer like me is just about the most gorgeous finish you could find. The sizes are my absolute favorite for live work. It's an 8x12 rack tom, a 14 by 15 inch floor tom, and a 12 inch by 22 inch bass drum. Of course, another really important thing about these drums is the WTS tuning system. You may or may not have seen these. It's a very strong cable that tensions the top and bottom heads equally. The drums are just relentlessly in tune. They sound relentlessly good, kind of no matter how high or how low you tune them. It's a really cool system. I've seen lots of alternate ways to tune a drum going back many, many decades. I feel like WTS has really sorted it out and has sort of built a better mousetrap. So there are a few things I love about this system. First of all, I mean, obviously, that's insanely easy and fast to tune from the absolute lowest you can get it to about the highest, way higher than I'm ever going to tune drums in an actual playing situation. And did you notice that there were certain ranges where the drum just really came alive? And that's because it's, getting to the right pitch that's right for my room, which was never acoustically treated. I'm in an old office space in an old leather factory, and making do with what I can. I mean, you can tune the room or tune the drums to the acoustics of the room, and every room is going to be different. Most of us play in a lot of places that were never designed by acousticians to be perfect. So, just being able to dial the drums on that fast. And I'm using it in the studio a lot all the time now, because just tuning the drums to the track, to just get the floor tom and the rack tom to just ring in tune with the song, as easy as just do do do. There it is. It's a game changer. One thing that I've heard a lot of people say is, with this tuning system with both heads being tuned to the same pitch, well, what if you want to tune the top head, lower than the bottom head or whatever? It's actually really easy. Just put a 2-play head on the top and a 1-play on the bottom. There's a really simple demonstration of that on, I think it's on the WTS site. Just one other quick note about changing heads on this system. It's different than what I'm used to. I mean, I've tuned, I can't even tell you how many thousands and thousands of drums with the drum key in my many decades of playing. It's different, but it's really not any slower. It's, you just kind of untension it and pull out the cable, swap heads, tighten the cable back in. There you go. This is kind of a game-changing setup, and I'm really into it. You can, get your own, just call up Josh at INDe and have him make something like this, or, of course, WTS sells their own drums as well. So you have lots of options. It's cool. Check them out. I think you're going to see a lot more of these around in the coming years. Josh's tom mounts are great. I really don't hear any difference between the rack tom on the mount, on the bass drum, and just holding it up in my hand. It's clearly not robbing any of the low end. These drums sound amazing. Along those same lines, I had originally planned on putting some of the pearl rubber tips on the floor tom legs just to open up the bottom end. Don't need it. Drum sounds great. I really don't hear any difference between hitting the drum on the floor, lifting it off the floor, and hitting it again. Sounds the same to me, or darn near close enough that I'm just not going to worry about it. Another big selling point for me is on the hardware on these drums. The floor tom legs, the bass drum spurs, the cymbal arm, the tom bracket and mount. They're so light. They're these really strong machined aluminum. They look great. They weigh nothing. They're really resonant, so they help the drums just speak. I'm sold. One really important detail on the bass drum, I had Josh at INDe drill and install the Kelly shoe mic mounting system, where I can just plug an XLR cable directly into the shell and the drum is mic'd. Big advantage of this system is, I always have a kick drum mic available, so sound guys love it. Band members love it because there's no microphone stand sticking out of the kick drum. I love it because no one's kicking that microphone stand and ripping my front head, and it just frees up a lot of space on a tight stage, which, I play on pretty often. I also carry my own XLR cable. Mine's not going to get mistaken for somebody else's and thrown into a cable bag. I've been endorsing Aquarian heads since about 1993 continuously, and something I really appreciate about INDe drums is Aquarian heads come stock, so they have the correct heads for what I do. I've got the Modern Vintage 2 on top, regular classic clear underneath. The kick drum has a coated Force 1 batter and just a regular smooth white head on front with the small muffling pillow on the inside. And of course my trusty Nomo pad to protect my rack tom from the snare drum. So, inspired by the aluminum floor tom legs and spurs on the INDe kit, I decided to investigate the Yamaha crosstown stuff. And if you haven't checked these out, please do yourself a favor. Just grab the box that holds the entire set. These things weigh nothing. It's really incredible. This one, I just weighed it. It's about 3 pounds, 4 ounces, I think. The base goes plenty wide, so you can use it on a windy day and it's not gonna move too much. I mean, not like a really heavy duty modern double brace stand. Those are going to be a lot more rock solid, but for gigging drummers, this stuff is amazing. Use a little Tama quick release wing nuts to get in and out of the gig quickly. So I got the whole pack, which comes with 2 cymbal stands. I added 1 more. Of course, all this aluminum on the stands and the legs and spurs, it just kind of ties the whole room together. I'm a big fan, and man, my hardware case is so much lighter than it used to be. I can't even begin to tell you. A few more details on the hardware. My cymbal arm that's mounted on the bass drum is actually, the top half is a Tama. It's from a cocktail kit or something. I've had it for a long time. And I got the aluminum L-arm, which is much lighter. It really significantly reduces the weight of this arm. And, it all fits together perfectly. I've been an endorser of the TNR True Vibes mounts for a long time. These things are amazing. They open up the tone and punch and body of your drums So much better than just putting your snare drum or your rack tom on a regular snare drum stand. The Yamaha stand fits these perfectly. 14-inch drum fits great. These things are 20 bucks for a set of three. I've had these forever. They're basically indestructible and they do so much for the tone. Get them, 20 bucks. A few years ago, my friends on the YouTube site Sounds Like a Drum posted a video called, I think it's Supercharge Your Bass Drum, talking about taking a really inexpensive Yamaha kick drum pedal and making a couple of really simple, really inexpensive tweaks to make this just a great gigging pedal. I did everyone they suggested, replaced the rocker hub, which was about $7 and made a huge difference, foam in the spring so the spring doesn't ring, and I replaced the beater with this Vic Firth felt model, which to my ear, and I've done a lot of bass drum beater shootouts, this one still just sounds better than any I've found so far. I'm a big fan of this beater. This has been a great pedal, and it's a lot lighter than the DW5000 pedal, which I normally use, and you know, I use here in the studio because I'm not hauling them around. I set them and forget them. Snare drums. For a while, I was using my Ludwig Acrolite and my Ludwig Superphonic as my two kind of interchangeable gigging drums. I ended up using the Superphonic so much in the studio for breakbeat stuff. That one got pulled out of the road kit and is now just living in my snare drum rack here. The Ludwig Acrolite is the drum I use a lot for things where I'd want a higher pitched drum. You know, a lot of modern stuff. I replaced the original strainer with the INDe strainer, which works so much better and doesn't slip and doesn't bind like the vintage ones do. You really should have one of these in your collection if you're a drummer. There's just kind of no better all-around snare drum as far as I'm concerned. For the more rock and roll stuff, I'm using this GMS 6.5x14 Super Vintage. It's a thin maple shell, reinforcing hoops, just a gorgeous drum. I did upgrade the hoops with the Stick Saver style. It makes it sound kind of like a 60s Slingerland drum to me, but with a much wider tuning range. A lot of those drums can be just kind of mid-range only. And this one it's got some great beef to it, just great attack, and I use it a lot for kind of bigger sounds, you know, louder bands, more rock and roll. Call Tony from GMS, he can make you one. These are great. And finally, for the quieter gigs, let's say the singer-songwriter gigs, just something where I don't want a ton of attack or volume from the snare drum, I'm using the 60s Rogers Power Tone. It's a 5x14, 8-lug, chrome-plated brass shell. Again, I replaced the strainer with one of Josh's INDe strainers for the same reason. It's just dependable, totally adjustable, so it'll match a whole bunch of different vintage hole spacings, and you don't have to drill new holes. Another great drum. These are kind of sleepers. Grab one if you see it. In a decent number of rooms I play, that much ring from the snare drums might be a little too much. So I'm a big fan of the little snare weights. These little leather things that clip on the rim. Do a great job. Totally reusable. They sound great. One of the benefits of going to a trade show or convention like PASIC in Indianapolis or the drum show in Nashville, Chicago, Anaheim, is getting to talk to the people at the companies who are actually making this gear. And I had a great chat with Randy Ross of Sabian about my favorite pair of hi-hats, which are 15-inch artisan light hats. I've been trying to find a 19-inch and a 21-inch kind of artisan crash ride, sort of the do everything cymbals, you know, that will match perfectly with these. Randy told me about something which I kind of didn't know about it. I've been a Sabian endorser for since the early 90s. It's SabianSoundcheck.com, where you can actually access thousands of prototypes in a very magical place called Area 51, where I've never been. I want to go someday. But basically, you tell them what they're looking for, what you're looking for, and they'll go find stuff in these thousands of prototypes and send it to you to try out. So I took advantage of it, and I'm really glad I did, because let me show you what Randy came up with. First up is this 21-inch ride. It's, I believe, HH and HHX hammering. It's pretty thin, pretty light. It's a great all-around cymbal. It doesn't have a super prominent bell, so it's not a great heavy rock and roll cymbal, but in that all-around 21-inch crash ride, do everything cymbal, this thing's gorgeous. And paired with it is this 19-inch crash ride. It's a little bit different profile, maybe slightly different hammering. I don't know exactly the differences, but the bell's a little bit flatter, as you can see, but it actually has a kind of more distinct bell than this one. So if I want really a strong bell sound, I'll go to the 19 on my left-hand side. Again, another one of those, if you only bring one cymbal to the gig, it could be this one, it could be the 21, either will be great. A cymbal sound that's become really popular and a lot of us need to have in our setup is the clap stack. You probably know the version that Trevor Lawrence Jr. designed, which is really an incredible sounding instrument. The issue for me has always been just with the shape, with that kind of curved shape, and they're pretty big, I can't get them in a cymbal bag. So I was, again, really excited to see a prototype at PASIC last fall of a Sabian clapper. This is a 14-inch version. It fits perfectly in my cymbal bag, right with the hi-hats, and it sounds great. I mean, it does that clap thing. They had a 12-inch prototype at the booth last year, which I'm told maybe is coming out soon. Keep your eyes peeled, because this thing does it. The cymbal on the far right side of the kit switches around a lot depending on the gig. I'll often use a 17-inch HHX complex thin crash. Amazing cymbals if, you know, it's sort of a more straightforward gig. Another really cool line that they just came out with is the Stratus line and the stack, the 18-inch China and the 18-inch Zero go together really well, and it kind of gives a white noise stack effect that you hear a lot in modern music. And finally, another prototype. This is a 21-inch Trash Crash, and from their Crescent line of a few years ago. Kind of China vibes, but just kind of sweet, dark, really cool cymbal. What I'm especially loving about this whole set of cymbals is I feel like I have my instruments now. Before, I had a cymbal bag full of great sounding cymbals. These are mine. Check out the Sabian sound check. There's a sound you want. It's probably in Area 51. None of this means anything if I don't have something to hit them with. And I'm a very proud endorser of Innovative Percussion. I use the Legacy 5AB in my stick bag. It's the do everything stick for me. Loud, soft, everything in between, great. I also am a big fan of the fat brooms. I use them all the time on quiet gigs because you can actually really lay into the drums without overpowering the band or a low volume situation or something. They're really amazing. A pair of brushes and a pair of GT2 timpani mallets, I can cover just about any gig. I play with a lot of different groups covering a wide range of material. And for decades, I wrote paper charts. I've got a whole filing cabinet full of these things. And, you know, if you've ever used paper charts on an outdoor gig where it's windy, you know that's a real drag. So the biggest change to my kit, I can't believe it took me this long, was adding an iPad. Aside from being able to play along to music, of course, there are two apps that I want to show you that are absolutely invaluable for me. The first app is Fourscore, and it's a sheet music program. I use it to keep tempos. I can add backing tracks. I can add a backing track that has the click on one channel and the track on the other, and I can hear the click and run the track out to the house. I have several hundred songs in here from the past couple years. I can't believe I survived without this thing. This is a great app. It's a little wonky to use, but it's absolutely worth getting used to it. If you're still using paper charts, I highly recommend you look into something like this. The other one is the Tempo app, which I used to use mainly just for the click track. I could set up a show and have the tempos for a whole set. And I've started using it more for practice because it has this great tempo increase function, which I find really useful. One other thing I want to mention is the website joebergamini.com, his working drummer charts. I use these on gigs. They're 99 cents each. They're really well written. They're really clear. They fit on one page. And if, say, for example, you're like me and you've been handed a set list of 45 songs that you have to play in 6 days, and half of them are on Joe's site, I will pay that $1 per chart because it's a lot of time saved. And the last thing I throw in my computer bag with the iPad is my trusty Pro Logic's practice pad for those, downtime in between sets to do a little warm up. The only real downside to this kit, and I'm really stretching here to find this, I normally hang my innovative stick bag from my floor tom, but it's set up to attach to 2 tension rods, and these drums don't have that. So my workaround is I use this old leather LP stick bag, which has a hook, and I can just attach it to the hoop, but it's a little bulky and doesn't fit quite as well in my cymbal bag. So, I gotta find a different stick bag, but all things being equal, that's pretty low on the list of crises. I'm loving this kit. I've been using it a lot here in the studio. I've been gigging with it. Hopefully you'll get to see it on a gig sometime. I'll see you out there out on the road. Thanks for watching and happy drumming.